The first hints of what would become humanity's most extraordinary defense project began in the quiet aftermath of humanity's most devastating encounter. In 2157, the Zorn first appeared, not with diplomacy, but with surgical precision designed to eliminate potential competition. Their initial probe, mistaken for a routine deep space asteroid, carried a payload that devastated most of North America in a single horrifying moment. Dr. Elena Rodriguez remembered that day with crystalline clarity. She had been a junior researcher at the time, working in a small quantum physics lab in what remained of Buenos Aires. The global communication networks had collapsed within hours, governments crumbled, and humanity teetered on the brink of extinction. Over 4 billion lives vanished in the first 72 hours of the invasion. But humanity's response was not what the Zorn expected. Instead of total surrender, the survivors began to organize. Military veterans, scientists, engineers, and ordinary people united with a ferocity that defied comprehension. Underground research facilities sprang up in the most impossible locations, beneath Antarctic ice shelves, inside hollowed-out mountains, deep within oceanic trenches, and in the radiation-scarred remnants of abandoned space colonies. Elena found herself at the center of a project that would redefine human potential. The Supernova fleet was more than a weapon. It was humanity's ultimate insurance policy. Each component was developed with paranoid attention to detail, with multiple redundancies and fail-safes that would make even the most cautious military strategists seem reckless. The project's true genius lay in its distributed development. No single team knew the entire plan. Quantum physicists in Bangalore worked on communication systems without understanding their full application. Materials scientists in Stockholm developed molecular bonded asteroid shells, believing they were creating advanced mining equipment. Artificial intelligence experts in Sao Paulo created predictive algorithms that seemed designed for climate modeling, not warfare. Only a handful of people understood the complete picture, and they were chosen with surgical precision. Psychological profiles, genetic compatibility, and an almost supernatural ability to think beyond conventional limitations were the primary selection criteria. Deep beneath Europa's icy crust, the first prototype came online. The facility was a marvel of human engineering, a research station that appeared, to any external scan, as nothing more than a routine scientific outpost. But beneath its mundane exterior, something extraordinary was taking shape. Elena watched as the quantum entanglement communication node flickered to life. Her team had spent decades developing a communication system that defied everything known about information transfer. Traditional faster-than-light communication was impossible, or so the galactic scientific community believed. Humans, however, had found a way to cheat the fundamental laws of physics. The prototype looked deceptively simple, a crystalline structure no larger than a human hand, pulsing with a soft, almost organic light. But within its molecular structure lay a communication system that could transmit information across impossible distances, using quantum principles that would make most alien scientists laugh, if they could understand them. System stability at 97.3%, murmured Dr. Akira Nakamura, checking a holographic display that seemed to float in midair. His fingers, scared from decades of prototype development, moved with the precision of a surgeon. Elena nodded, her dark eyes reflecting the soft blue light of the prototype. They both understood what this meant. Humanity was no longer playing by the rules set by other galactic civilizations. They were writing their own. The Supernova fleet was more than a weapon. It was a statement, a promise, a warning. Never again would humanity be caught unprepared. Supreme Commander Krelvac stood on the command deck of the Zorn Imperium's flagship, the Worldbreaker, his six-fingered hands clasped behind a back covered in iridescent battle armor. To his species, conquest was more than a military strategy. It was a cultural imperative. For 10,000 cycles, the Zorn had consumed civilizations like a galactic plague, reducing entire planetary systems to resource extraction sites. Humanity was supposed to be another routine conquest. The initial reconnaissance reports have been almost laughably dismissive. Earth appeared fractured, its technological capabilities primitive. Scattered defense systems, inconsistent global governance, and what seemed like minimal space exploration capabilities made the planet look like an easy target. Krell-Vax had personally overseen the destruction of civilizations far more advanced than these humans. What he didn't know was that every single transmission, every scan, every piece of intelligence was being carefully monitored. In the hidden command center beneath Titan's methane lakes, Captain Michael Chen watched the Zorn fleet's approach with calculating precision. A holographic display mapped each Zorn vessel, their trajectories plotted with microscopic detail. Beside him, a team of the most brilliant minds humanity had produced worked in near-perfect synchronization. Incoming fleet composition, announced Dr. Isham Beek, her fingers dancing across a quantum interface. 10,287 vessels. Primary attack configuration suggests total planetary consumption. Estimated time to first contact, 72 standard hours. Chen's eyes narrowed. The numbers were exactly what they had predicted and prepared for. The Zorn communication networks, which they believed were completely secure, had been compromised months ago. Every transmission was not just intercepted but carefully manipulated. False intelligence was being fed back to their command structures, creating a false sense of tactical superiority. On the Worldbreaker, Krell-Vax reviewed the invasion protocols. Humanity would be categorized as a Class 3 planetary resource, intelligent enough for manual labor, but not sophisticated enough to pose a meaningful resistance. Standard procedure called for orbital bombardment, followed by ground-based resource extraction and population management. What Krell-Vax didn't realize was that humanity had been planning for this moment for decades. The first wave of Zorn ships began to enter the solar system's outer reaches. Long-range scanners showed what appeared to be a typical solar system. Some planets, asteroid fields, nothing remarkable. Their initial probes began standard reconnaissance, mapping potential landing zones and assessing defensive capabilities. Those probes were exactly where humanity wanted them to be. "Tracking is perfect," murmured Dr. Rodriguez, monitoring the quantum communication network. Every movement, every scan, every piece of data was being absorbed, analyzed, and incorporated into the most sophisticated predictive system ever created. The human response would not be a simple defense. It would be a complete technological and psychological dismantling of the Zorn invasion force. Aboard the Worldbreaker, Junior Tactical Officer Vren Tak noticed something peculiar in the initial scan data. Anomalies in the asteroid field, slight gravitational inconsistencies that didn't match standard planetary formation models. He attempted to bring this to Krell-Vax's attention, but hierarchical Zorn military structure discouraged junior officers from questioning strategic assessments. If only he had been more persistent. The invasion had begun. But the Zorn were about to learn that humanity was not a civilization to be underestimated. Every moment of their approach was anticipated. Every movement was already countered. The trap was not just set, it was already sprung. Humanity was ready. The first indication that something was wrong came as a subtle vibration, almost imperceptible, through the hull of the lead Zorn battlecruiser. Tactical Officer Vren Tak felt it first, a tremor that seemed to contradict every known law of space dynamics. Asteroids didn't move like this. They didn't align. They didn't breathe. But these asteroids were breathing. What appeared to be a standard asteroid field was anything but standard. Each massive rock was a precisely engineered weapon platform, molecular bonded shells hiding technological marvels that would redefine the concept of space warfare. Captain Michael Chen watched from the hidden command center, his fingers hovering over a quantum interface that looked more like a work of art than a control system. Gravitational convergence in 3, 2, 1. Dr. Elena Rodriguez muttered, her voice calm despite the magnitude of what was about to unfold. The first group of Zorn ships found themselves caught in an impossible trap. Asteroids began to move, not randomly, but with calculated precision that defied natural physics. Gravitational anomalies created by quantum-entangled generators began to shift the very fabric of space around the invasion fleet. Supreme Commander Krelvax's first reaction was disbelief. Tactical analysis, he bellowed, his six-fingered hands gripping the command console. The holographic displays flickered, showing impossible readings. Asteroids that should have been static were now moving with surgical precision, creating corridors of destruction that funneled the Zorn fleet exactly where humanity wanted them. Each asteroid was a weapon beyond anything the galactic races had ever conceived. Developed in secret research stations scattered across the solar system, these platforms represented the pinnacle of human innovative thinking. Fusion cores capable of generating temporary stellar events were nestled within molecular bonded shells that could absorb and redirect energy in ways that defied conventional physics. "Quantum lock engage," announced Dr. Aisha Beek, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface. Primary containment field at 98.7% efficiency. On the Worldbreaker, panic began to spread. Junior officers looked to their commanders, but the chain of command that had served the Zorn so well in hundreds of conquests now became their greatest weakness. Rigid thinking met adaptive technology, and technology was winning. The first asteroid weapon activated, and space itself seemed to tear open. A controlled fusion event erupted, not as a traditional explosion, but as a carefully modulated energy release that turned entire sections of the Zorn fleet into rapidly expanding plasma. It wasn't just destruction. It was a surgical strike that demonstrated humanity's complete control of the battlefield. Vrentok watched in horror as entire battle groups simply ceased to exist. The asteroids weren't just weapons. They were living systems, adaptive and intelligent in ways that challenged everything he understood about warfare. Quantum communication nodes allowed each platform to act as both an individual weapon and part of a larger collective intelligence. "They're hurting us," he realized, a moment of clarity that came too late. Captain Chen allowed himself the smallest of smiles. The trap wasn't just about destruction. It was about sending a message. Humanity was not a civilization to be conquered. They were a force to be reckoned with. "Containment field stabilizing," Dr. Rodriguez reported. "First wave neutralized. Proceeding to Phase 2. The quantum-entangled communication network hummed with an almost living energy. Each asteroid platform was more than a weapon. It was a node in a vast, intelligent system that could predict, adapt, and counter with terrifying precision. The Zorn invasion was about to become a lesson in human innovation. Space itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what would come next. The Supernova fleet was not a weapons system. It was a living, breathing technological organism that defied every conventional understanding of warfare, physics, and intelligence. Its true complexity lay not in its destructive capabilities, but in the intricate network of human innovation that birthed it. Dr. Aisha Beek stood in the core research facility, surrounded by holographic displays that pulsed with an almost organic rhythm. Each display represented a different aspect of the fleet's intelligence: quantum communication nodes, adaptive camouflage systems, predictive engagement algorithms. To an outside observer, it might have looked like chaos. To Aisha, it was a symphony of human potential. The quantum entanglement communication system was her masterpiece. Traditional faster-than-light communication was impossible, or so the galactic scientific community believed. Humans had found a way to cheat the fundamental laws of physics, creating a communication network that was instantaneous, undetectable, and adaptive. Quantum coherence at 99.997% stability. She muttered, her fingers tracing complex mathematical models that danced across the holographic interface. Each asteroid weapon was more than a simple platform. It was a node in a vast, intelligent network that could think, predict, and respond faster than any biological intelligence could comprehend. Captain Michael Chen watched from the command center, understanding that this was more than a defensive system. It was a statement about human potential. The adaptive camouflage was another marvel. Developed by a team of materials scientists and quantum physicists, the asteroid platforms could manipulate light, gravitational fields, and electromagnetic emissions in ways that made them essentially invisible. They weren't just hiding. They were actively creating false sensor readings, feeding misinformation to any scanning system that approached. Dr. Elena Rodriguez focused on the predictive algorithms, the true heart of the Supernova fleet's intelligence. Machine learning systems developed over decades could analyze potential conflict scenarios with terrifying accuracy. They didn't just respond to threats, they anticipated them, creating multi-layered defensive and offensive strategies in microseconds. On the Worldbreaker, Tactical Officer Vrentok struggled to make sense of the impossible data streaming across his displays. The human defensive system didn't just counter Zorn technology. It seemed to exist on an entirely different plane of technological understanding. Each asteroid platform was a miniature supercomputer, its processing power derived from quantum computing technologies that made traditional digital systems look like ancient abacuses. Molecular bonded shells contained fusion cores that could generate temporary stellar events, while adaptive energy redirection systems could absorb and repurpose incoming weapon energy. Predictive model shows 14,672 potential engagement scenarios. Dr. Mbik announced, her voice calm despite the magnitude of what was happening. Optimal response calculated and distributed across the network. The true genius of the system was its distributed intelligence. No single platform contained the entire strategic model. Like a biological neural network, information was shared, processed, and adapted instantaneously. If one node was destroyed, the entire system would immediately recalculate and continue its mission. Backup systems were built into backup systems. Redundancy was an art form, with each critical component having multiple fail-safes that would make the most paranoid military strategist seem casual. The machine learning algorithms didn't just analyze military data. They studied psychology, cultural information, communication patterns. They could predict not just movement, but intention. The Zorn weren't just facing a weapon system. They were confronting an intelligence that understood them better than they understood themselves. Engagement parameters optimal. The system's AI reported, its voice a perfect blend of human speech patterns and computational precision. Psychological disruption protocols at maximum efficiency. This was more than a defense system. It was the culmination of human innovation, a technological marvel that represented humanity's true potential. The Zorn thought they were entering a simple conquest. They were about to learn that humanity played by an entirely different set of rules. The technological symphony was about to reach its crescendo. Psychological warfare was an art form that humanity had perfected over millennia of conflict, and the Supernova fleet was its ultimate expression. While the Zorn understood tactical strategy, they could never comprehend the nuanced human ability to weaponize perception itself. Dr. Marcus Reyes, the lead psychological warfare specialist, watched the holographic displays with the intensity of a surgeon. His team wasn't just monitoring the Zorn fleet, they were systematically destroying its cohesion from within. Each communication intercept, each manipulated transmission was a precise surgical strike against the alien military's psychological integrity. Initiating cognitive dissonance protocol, he murmured, his fingers dancing across a quantum interface that looked more like an abstract painting than a communication system. The first wave of psychological attacks was subtle. Intercepted Zorn communications began to show microscopic alterations, not enough to be immediately noticeable, but sufficient to create doubt. Tactical reports were subtly modified. Navigation coordinates showed impossible discrepancies. Communication logs between ship commanders began to hint at imaginary betrayals. On the Worldbreaker, Supreme Commander Krelvax felt the first tendrils of unease. Something was wrong, but he couldn't identify exactly what. His junior officers seemed more nervous than usual. Communication channels that had always been crisp and clear now carried undertones of uncertainty. Tactical Officer Vrentok was the first to notice the deeper patterns. Holographic displays began to show impossible scenarios. ghost ships that couldn't exist, tactical movements that defied logical explanation. The Zorn communication network, once considered the most secure in the galaxy, was being systematically compromised. Holographic projections became the first line of psychological assault. The human systems could generate entire battle scenarios that existed only in digital space, but looked absolutely real to Zorn sensors. Entire squadrons would receive tactical data about non-existent human defensive positions, creating a fog of war that paralyzed decision-making. Cognitive interference at 74.3%, announced Dr. Elena Rodriguez, monitoring the psychological warfare systems. Zorn command structure beginning to fragment. The attacks were multi-layered. While technological systems created visual and communication disruptions, deep learning algorithms analyze Zorn cultural and psychological profiles. Every transmission was a precision instrument designed to exploit the most fundamental weaknesses in their military hierarchy. Communication channels became a battlefield of perception. False orders were introduced, each one crafted to create maximum psychological impact. A message here suggested a commander's potential betrayal. A tactical report there hinted at impossible technological capabilities. Each piece of information was a psychological weapon designed to erode trust. Supreme Commander Krelvax found himself second-guessing every decision. The rigid Zorn military structure, which had been their greatest strength in hundreds of planetary conquests, now became their most significant vulnerability. Humans understood something the Zorn never could, that true warfare happened first in the mind. Paranoia protocols engaging, Dr. Rice said, a hint of professional pride in his voice. They're beginning to turn on each other. The quantum communication network allowed for instantaneous manipulation of sensory. Space itself seemed to hold its breath as the Supernova fleet prepared for its most devastating attack. The moment when humanity would transform from a seemingly vulnerable target to an unassailable force of cosmic proportion had arrived. Captain Michael Chen watched the holographic displays with a calculated calm that betrayed none of the tension building within the hidden command center. Each asteroid weapon platform was now perfectly positioned, not just through mathematical precision, but through a quantum-guided intelligence that understood the battlefield at a level far beyond traditional military strategy. Stellar conversion sequence initiating, announced Dr. Elena Rodriguez, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what was about to unfold. The first artificial stellar event erupted with a brilliance that defied comprehension. It wasn't an explosion in any traditional sense. It was a carefully modulated fusion reaction that transformed entire sections of space into temporary stellar furnaces. The Zorn fleet found itself caught in a web of energy that seemed to defy the fundamental laws of physics. Supreme Commander Krelvax watched in horror as his invasion force began to disintegrate. The weapons used against them were beyond anything in the galactic catalog of known technologies. These weren't simple energy weapons or conventional destructive systems. They were something else entirely, living systems that could think, adapt, and destroy with surgical precision. Tactical Officer Vrentok understood first. These weren't just weapons. They were a statement. Each stellar conversion event was a carefully calculated strike. The human systems didn't just destroy. They dismantled. Entire battle groups disappeared in moments, not through brute force, but through a combination of quantum manipulation, energy redirection, and psychological warfare that left the Zorn fleet in complete disarray. Energy redirection at 99.8% efficiency, Dr. Isham Baik reported, monitoring systems that looked more like living organisms than technological interfaces. Collateral damage minimized. Targeted destruction maximized. The true horror of humanity's technological marvel became apparent. These weren't indiscriminate weapons of mass destruction. They were precision instruments of war that could selectively neutralize threats while preserving surrounding space. Every blast was a message. Humanity could destroy, but they chose precision over wholesale annihilation. Holographic communication networks captured the moment. The Zorn command structure, already fractured by psychological warfare, began to completely collapse. Ships that weren't destroyed found themselves caught in impossible gravitational anomalies, unable to retreat, unable to advance. "They're choosing how we die," Krelvax muttered, a realization that struck him with the force of a physical blow. The stellar conversion events were more than weapons. They were a demonstration of technological capability that rewrote the understanding of space warfare. Each platform could generate temporary stellar events that lasted mere microseconds, but could neutralize entire battle groups. The energy management was so precise that surrounding space remained largely unaffected, a level of control that seemed impossible. Dr. Rodriguez allowed herself the smallest of smiles. This was more than defense. This was a comprehensive demonstration of human potential. The quantum communication network hummed with an almost living energy. Each asteroid platform was simultaneously a weapon, a sensor, and an intelligent node in a vast, adaptive network. They didn't just respond to threats. They anticipated them, created them, controlled them. Entire sections of the Zorn invasion force simply ceased to exist, not destroyed in any traditional sense, but transformed, converted into energy, redirected, neutralized with a precision that bordered on the miraculous. Final engagement parameters optimal. The system's AI reported, its voice a perfect blend of computational precision and human-like clarity. The galaxy was watching, and humanity was making its statement. This was not just a defense. This was an announcement. The communication networks of the Galactic Confederation lit up with impossible footage. Diplomatic channels, intelligence networks, and interstellar communication hubs became a maelstrom of shock, fear, and disbelief. Humanity, a species previously categorized as a developing civilization, had just demonstrated a level of technological capability that rewrote every understanding of cosmic warfare. Ambassador Zaravex of the Quantum Concordance watched the recorded battle footage for the third time, her crystalline, sensory tendrils vibrating with a mixture of terror and fascination. The human defense system was beyond anything in the known galactic catalog. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a living, thinking system that seemed to understand warfare at a level that transcended biological intelligence. Preliminary analysis complete, her AI assistant reported, its voice carefully modulated to minimize emotional response. Technological capability exceeds previous estimates by 976.3%. The diplomatic corridors of the Galactic Confederation became a hive of frantic activity. Species that had viewed humans as a potential resource or a minor civilization now found themselves reevaluating everything they thought they knew. The Zorn Imperium, a military force that had conquered hundreds of civilizations, had been completely dismantled not through brute force, but through a combination of psychological warfare and technological precision that bordered on the miraculous. Dr. Elena Rodriguez received the first diplomatic communication at the Hidden Command Center. The quantum communication network, which had been instrumental in the defense, now became a channel for potential dialogue. But humanity's message was clear. They were not seeking alliance. They were establishing a new paradigm of cosmic interaction. Incoming transmission from Quantum Concordance, announced the AI system. Diplomatic inquiry detected. The recordings of the battle were clinical, almost beautiful in their precision. Entire Zorn battle groups disappeared not through violent explosion, but through controlled energy conversion that seemed to defy the fundamental laws of physics. Each stellar conversion event was a mathematical perfection, a demonstration of technological capability that left other species stunned. Ambassador Krell of the Martian Diplomatic Corps understood the deeper implications. This wasn't just a defense. This was a statement about humanity's potential. The human weapon system had demonstrated an ability to neutralize a significant threat while minimizing collateral damage, a level of precision that spoke to something far beyond simple military capability. They didn't just defend, Krell muttered during an emergency diplomatic session. They demonstrated control. Across hundreds of star systems, diplomatic and military experts began to analyze the available data. The quantum communication networks were flooded with speculation, fear, and a growing recognition that humanity was no longer a species to be overlooked. The technological marvel wasn't just in the weapon systems, it was in the holistic approach, the psychological warfare, the adaptive intelligence, the precision of energy manipulation. Humanity had demonstrated an understanding of warfare that went beyond physical conflict. They had shown an ability to dismantle an invasion through intelligence, precision, and a level of technological sophistication that seemed almost organic in its complexity. Dr. HFY monitored the diplomatic communications, understanding that this was more than a military victory. This was a redefinition of humanity's place in the cosmic order. Diplomatic pressure increasing. The AI system reported multiple species requesting communication protocols. But humanity's response would be carefully measured. The Supernova fleet remained active, a silent guardian watching the edges of human space. Not a threat, not an invitation, just a promise. The galaxy had learned a lesson written in quantum mathematics and stellar fire. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The transmission was deceptively simple. A single message, broadcast across every known galactic communication frequency, delivered with a precision that carried more weight than any military demonstration. We did not seek this conflict. We do not desire empire, but we will defend ourselves, completely and without hesitation. Captain Michael Chen stood in the hidden command center, watching as the message rippled across interstellar communication networks. It wasn't just a statement. It was a definitive declaration of humanity's place in the cosmic order. Dr. Elena Rodriguez understood the deeper significance. This wasn't about conquest. This was about establishing a new paradigm of cosmic interaction, a message that would echo through generations of interstellar civilizations. The Supernova fleet remained active, but not as an aggressive presence. It was a guardian, a silent promise, a technological marvel that continued to pulse with an intelligence that defied conventional understanding. Each asteroid platform was a node in a vast, living network, part weapon, part communication system, part cosmic sentinel. Ambassador Krell of the Martian Diplomatic Corps recognized the subtlety of the human approach. Other species throughout galactic history had responded to threats with total war or complete submission. Humanity had found a third path, a precise, controlled response that demonstrated capability without descending into unnecessary destruction. Across the Galactic Confederation, diplomatic channels buzzed with analysis. The human defense system wasn't just a technological marvel, it was a complete reimagining of cosmic conflict resolution. Dr. HFY monitored the ongoing communications, understanding that this moment was about more than a single conflict. It was about redefining humanity's cosmic narrative. The quantum communication networks continued to pulse with an almost living intelligence, a testament to human innovation that went far beyond simple military technology. The aftermath was measured in more than just destroyed ships or neutralized threats. It was measured in a fundamental shift of perception. Species that had once viewed humans as a potential resource now saw them as a force to be understood, respected, and approached with careful consideration. The Zorn Imperium, once a seemingly unstoppable force of cosmic conquest, had been dismantled not through brute force, but through a combination of psychological warfare, technological precision, and an intelligence that seemed to transcend traditional understanding. Tactical Officer Vrentok, the lone Zorn survivor, found himself in a human research facility. His perspective had been completely transformed. Humanity wasn't just another civilization to be conquered. They were something entirely different. A species that could turn defense into an art form, that could understand warfare as a multi-dimensional challenge of intelligence, psychology, and technological innovation. The Supernova fleet remained partially active, a silent guardian watching the edges of human space. Not a threat, not an invitation, just a promise. Each asteroid platform continued to pulse with a quantum intelligence that defied conventional understanding. They were more than weapons. They were a living network, an adaptive system that could respond to potential threats with a precision that bordered on the miraculous. Defensive protocols maintaining. The AI system reported, its voice a perfect blend of computational precision and almost human-like calm. Dr. Rodriguez allowed herself a moment of reflection. This wasn't just about defending against the Zorn. This was about establishing a new understanding of humanity's potential, a demonstration that they would not be overlooked, would not be conquered, and would meet any threat with a level of intelligence and precision that would redefine cosmic interaction. The message continued to echo across interstellar space. We are here. We are prepared. We will not be underestimated.